The issue of child labour further exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which included economic shocks coupled with school closures that forced children into the worst forms of child labour due to job and income losses among vulnerable families.
9 million children are at risk of falling into child labour by the end of 2022 due to the pandemic. And this figure could potentially rise to as much as 46 million unless adequate social policies are enacted and enacted fast. Can we put into place the necessary measures quickly enough to turn the tide and make up lost ground in the fight against child labour?
Calls on government and international development banks to prioritise investments in programmes that can get children out of the workforce and back into school, including better social protection programmes that can help families avoid making tough choices involving their children in the first place.
Earliest days of the pandemic, it was clear that there were risk factors that would spike child labor. Clearly, many families have been hit hard financially through job and income losses. An estimated 90 million people have been pushed into extreme poverty, which creates just incredible pressure on families to send their children to work. A second issue, of course, is over 1 billion children out of school. Leaving them with little to do and feeling like they often, that work is a logical alternative. A third factor is the rising death rates that have left hundreds of thousands of children without caregivers and breadwinners. And then finally, reduced government inspections during COVID-19 restrictions, less monitoring, fewer enforcement of child labor laws.
The report points to a significant rise of children working between the ages of 5 and 11, which accounts for just over half of the total global figure, and those between 5 and 17 working in hazardous conditions likely to harm their health, accounting for about 79 million of the total, while some 700,000 children are, for example, involved in the cocoa sector in Ghana.
Education is crucial to breaking the cycle of child labor, but as long as cultivation and harvesting of cocoa requires more labor, there is no incentive for the cocoa farmer to send their children to school, because it makes more sense to have them used as labor, because cocoa production is labor intensive. Evidence from Ghana shows that high level of absenteeism correlates with harvesting period in cocoa producing areas. Why is that the case? Simple. Planters, they just need more labor.
The sector accounts for 70% of children in child labour, followed by 20% in services and 10% in industry. Is more prevalent among boys than girls at every age, but when 21 hours per week of household chores are taken into account, the gender gap in child labour narrows by almost half. Child labour in rural areas stands at 14%, nearly 3 times higher than the 5% in urban areas, while Eastern and Southern Africa account for the largest proportion of child labourers globally at around 26% of children aged 5 to 17. Sherman Brycebees, SABC News, New York.